welcome to a brand new episode of Kickstart Connections. I'm Lucinda Underwood.
And I'm Marc Boudreau.
And we are here for episode 4?
I think so.
I think it's episode 4.
Depends if you're on YouTube or podcast platforms. Yeah, I think it's like season 3, episode 4.
Episode 4 of the year as well.
We should definitely know this, but that's okay. We've both been we've been a little sick. You can probably still hear it in my voice. I may wheeze a bit here and there, definitely on the nasalier side of things, but it's that time of year.
It is that time of year, and I can tell you, last week, I was in bed for the whole week, and I was sicker than I have been in years. So it was not very enjoyable, but I'm feeling a lot better, and I'm glad to be back.
That's good. Yeah, you sound basically completely normal.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It wasn't really even a cold. It was flu, and it was fever, and gross.
Yes, and if you're one of our avid listeners, you've noticed that last episode was out on a Friday, and this one is coming out on a Friday. We're moving to Fridays.
We like Fridays better.
It makes more sense for us from a recording schedule point of view, where it's the end of the week, so we've kind of got a full week
to get it done.
Sort of thing, because we're quite busy, and we want to commit to this. We said we would at the beginning of the year. We still are. We're heading into March, and we're on a nice schedule here. So it is the last day of February.
Today?
Well,
tomorrow.
Tomorrow. Sorry. Yeah, we're recording this the 27th. Tomorrow / today is the 28th. So I don't know where the time went, but hey, we're having fun.
Most days we're having fun.
Most days are having fun. So today we have obviously a little segment that we're going to cover for entrepreneurs.
Yep.
And we've got our Are You There, God? It's Me marketing. I got it right. I was like, oh my God, what do I say? And then a little bit of marketing the news, not outside news, but inside news. We're going to go over what's been going on with Kickstart Consulting.
Yes.
And B&B Media. So take it away, Lucy. What are we talking about?
Let's go. So I picked a topic today that I think you're going to find quite interesting, and hopefully our listeners will as well. I want to talk about scaling versus staying small. Now, this is something quite current for us, isn't it? For both of us.
Oh, this one hits real close to home.
It hits real close to home. And I can tell you, I have been trying to make this decision for a while now. And it's still not fully made.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I know which way I'm going to go.
It's like we want to scale, but then when it's hard, it's like, do we have to scale? And then we go back and forth.
Well, but it also, and we're going to get into this because it also really comes down to looking at yourself and your motivations.
Yeah.
And not thinking one way is better than the other. I think in the business world, there is a lot of pressure to scale. There's a lot of belief that scaling your company to become a national or global company is the dream, right? But it's not everyone's dream, and that's what we're gonna get into.
Mm-hmm.
There's obviously benefits to both. And I was kind of looking into some of these, and I pulled some definitions that I like, actually, just to kind of really sort of make clear the two sides.
Yeah.
And this describes scaling as, expanding operations, increasing revenue streams, so new business units, effectively, hiring more people. Hiring is always got to be one.
Every step of scaling is a tough step.
Right. Growing customer base, and then potentially seeking funding as well. So seeking some sort of outside investment.
Yeah. Off the top of your head.
Yeah.
And you may not have this here, but what percentage of companies that successfully scale did seek outside investment? I
have no idea.
I wonder what that is.
We could look that up.
If anyone knows that's listening, put it in the comments or let us know, because I'd be curious about that, because for B&B personally, we've tried to not go that route, just based on, what you'd have to reciprocate. Like, we don't want to really give up any of the company. I know there's other routes you can take in terms of, paying back with interest, whatever it may be, but we just haven't really looked into it as much because we're not sure. But I'd love to hear more about what you have to say about that, because maybe you convinced me otherwise.
Yeah, well, I'm asking ChatGPT, so we'll see what
let's
search in the web, so we'll see what that comes back with. But yeah, it's a very interesting point, and I'm very much the same mindset of you so far. You know, not seeking that external investment. I mean, some people do that as they launch their companies as well, right?
Yeah.
They
Silicon
raise,
Valley, like any of those big tech companies, like
because of the cost to
seed round. What do they call it?
Yeah.
Like seed rounds or whatever.
Yeah, seed money and
they can't exist without that money.
Venture capital and things like that. It's not really given me an answer though.
That's okay.
Yeah, it doesn't really give me an answer. It kind of gives me how much of money invested went to small business, but that doesn't really answer the question.
Right.
So anyway, going back to the definition. So scaling is kind of really covers those options, whereas staying small, again, I think the temptation is to believe that staying small means not growing at all, and that's not the case. So staying small is more about keeping control. Which, you know me, I like control. Yeah. Maintaining manageable growth. So growing very intentionally and maybe at a slower rate.
Yeah.
Prioritizing lifestyle and maintaining lower overheads.
That prioritizing lifestyle is a big one, because when I think of all these massive companies that have scaled, like they don't really have a family life. Or they're like, look at Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, I mean, Elon Musk, nutcase, but all divorced, all don't have a great family life. So I always think of like, if you want to scale that big, and then there's varying, definitions of scaling.
Right,
but if you
absolutely,
want to scale that big, you have to make a lot of sacrifices. And if you don't scale, or say, manageable growth, then you can almost enjoy it while you're in it a bit more.
Right. And it's doing everything in a controlled way too. And those examples that you give, I mean, obviously they are the peak.
The top of the tippity
they are
top.
The top of the tippity top. And I think anyone at that level, no matter what you're doing, I'm thinking athletes too, right?
Yeah.
You have to be obsessed with what you're doing.
I saw a quote from Lewis Hamilton today.
Oh yeah, what did he say?
Now with Ferrari, if anyone's an F1
He's very
fan.
happy to be with Ferrari, actually.
I think it was his dream was to eventually be with Ferrari.
Yeah.
But I guess Toto Wolff, who was the manager. I don't know. I should know the terminology.
Team principal.
Thank you. Of Mercedes.
Yeah.
Came out and said, and Toto and Lewis, they're friends, but he was like, I don't think he can't expect to be as competitive as he was 10 years ago or whatever it may be. He's turning 40. And Lewis came out and was like, I'm different. I'm the first black F1 racer. I'm the first.
He's been fighting against the odds his whole life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he was literally like, I have no wife. I have no children. I am 1,000% dedicated to this.
Yeah.
So it's like, I mean, that's what it takes.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, he grew up not far from where I'm from. Shout out to
Hertfordshire.
Stevenage in Hertfordshire. And he wasn't from a wealthy family.
No.
Right? So, I mean, his dad worked multiple jobs to keep him in racing. Fortunately, he was very, very good and picked up sponsorship at a young age. Otherwise, he may not have been able to continue going. So, yeah, he's one of those people, someone says he can't, he's going to prove he can. So we'll see. What's Ferrari's car like, though?
It's probably top 3 in terms of performance. I mean, Red Bull's always there. McLaren made a huge step forward. And then it was Ferrari. It was those 3. McLaren actually won the Constructors' Championship last year. Okay. But I digress.
Anyway,
check out F1 Casuals. It doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, we're getting off topic. But my point is, when you look at anyone who is the absolute top of their game in the world, they don't have much in their life other than that thing, right? And it's the same for business. So of course that, that varies dependent on how you want to go and what scaling really means to you.
Yeah.
But I mean, when we look at kind of because there's pros and cons of both, right? When we look at the pros for scaling, the research I did here, it's kind of giving me, increased revenue and impact, obviously. If you're expanding operations and expanding your customer base, there's going to be increased revenue. Creating a legacy,
Yeah.
Some people are really driven by this, right? Of building something bigger than themselves and building something that will live on.
I've thought about that a lot. Like something that, when I have kids, they have the option. And I say option because I'm not going to force them into anything, but they have the option to work with BNV Media and then eventually take it over.
Right.
That kind of thing. So.
Yeah. Yeah. That's an interesting point because I think very differently because there are very likely not be kids in my future. So it's just me.
Oh my goodness. Are you there, God? It's me, Lucia.
Anyway, it's just not for me.
Super fair.
Opportunity.
Just like scaling isn't for everyone.
Exactly. Opportunities for expansion. So again, if you're scaling, especially if you're bringing in outside investment, you're going to have some more opportunities for new markets or products or services or those business units that I was telling you about. And it says more freedom, but in brackets eventually. And I think that's very important.
That's the big one, right?
Yeah.
It's the long payoff.
Yeah.
Like, do you want a little bit now, here and there, or a lot later?
Yeah.
And that a lot isn't ever guaranteed.
No.
So.
No, exactly. It's
tough.
It is. And I mean, the eventually is referring to, once you get to the point where you are delegating a lot of the work and you've got those processes, systems and teams built up in your organization, but the work of creating that and finding something that works it's a lot. It's a lot. It's tough. So, who should consider scaling? If demand exceeds capacity, so if you've got more work coming your way than you can handle, makes sense. You're going to make some adjustments, right? If you have a replicable system, so if you have those clear processes that somebody can plenty of people franchise their businesses, right? Yeah. But it has to be something that's replicable. Yeah. That's a really difficult word for me to say.
It's a tough word to say.
It's a tough word. And if you're financially ready for increased costs, and again, that's why I think a lot of people will look at outside investment because they need that injection of cash, of capital to cover the cost of their expansion.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Challenges of scaling, cash flow risks, obviously expenses are going up. There'll be an initial outlay of expenses, which is going to affect your cash flow. Hiring and leadership challenges. I got to say, this is probably, it is. And this is probably one of the bigger reasons that I'm leaning towards not scaling because I like to do my work alone.
It's hard to pass. It's your baby.
And it's my baby.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll get into that in a second. And potential loss of personal touch. That's the other thing, right? I really focus on the quality of my work. It's something that's very important to me. And I also know that not everyone is going to do it like I do it.
Exactly.
So
it's a tale as old as time where if you happen to come across and in most like customer, like this would be like a entertainment base or food or whatever. It's like, if you come across a company at the early stages that makes it so special, you're like, oh, wow, that's amazing. That tastes so good. Or wow, that movie was so good or whatever. That video game was so good. And then they get big from that and they scale. And the people that made that video game, they're up in their top CEO tower
in their corner office.
They're not making number 2 or 3. Yeah. And it kind of loses that quality that it had in the beginning.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the other part of it as well is, your people, your team are going to be as good as they are trained to be.
Yeah.
And we're not all good at teaching.
Apparently you're supposed to be good at everything if you want to be an entrepreneur.
This is true. Nor do we all have that focus and understanding of training being so important too, right? So it makes sense as to why you see that quality drop. And then as soon as it starts affecting the bottom line, then it's suddenly, okay, we need to do something here. But it's hard to do that from the get-go. So let's look at staying small. So staying small, more control. We talked about that, ownership of decisions, client relationships, and brand integrity.
Yeah.
I talk about integrity a lot in my general conversation. It's something that's very, very important to me and how I and my business. Lower stress and overhead, so lower costs, lower stress because you've got, You don't have people to think about. You don't have the big bills to think about, that kind of thing.
Yep.
Better work-life balance.
You
can design your own schedule, which I've got to tell you, since I became a business owner and I can have my own schedule, define my own schedule however I want after spending, well, since I was 17 working full-time for other people, a lot of weekends and evenings in the car business. Yep. Oh, I never want to go back.
Do you ever kind of get upset though that as soon as we created things for ourselves and our companies, work from home and everything else kind of became the norm? It's like, no.
Yeah. I mean, you were a bit ahead of me though. Because I started my business in 2022.
Yeah.
So it was already kind of like that a little bit. And actually my job previous, I worked from home a lot as well.
Yeah.
Unless I was out on the road and stuff.
But if you're a salesperson, like if you're selling cars, you got to be
You've got to be at the dealership, right? Yeah. I mean, those hours have changed now, though, since COVID. A lot of dealerships have changed their opening hours, which I think is a good step. I mean, I used to be there 2 or 3 evenings a week till 9 p.m. And there ain't much selling going on between 7 and 9 p.m., I've got to tell you. No. Anyway, next up, profitability over revenue. And this is a really interesting point because I think, again, it's very easy to think, a business that scales and increases their revenue and brings on this team and brings on all these new clients, they're making a ton more money. Not always the case because their costs have significantly increased, right? So actually keeping your business lean and staying small can actually be more profitable. So again, you got to do it in a strategic way. But keeping those overheads down, and it really depends on the type of business too, right? I mean, I'm given a very generalized view and kind of tying it into my business, which has the potential to be able to grow quite big by still staying small, just because of the type of work we do, right? So, it really does depend. But, it says consider staying small if personal fulfillment is more important to you than rapid growth. I can check that one off for me 100%.
Totally.
If lifestyle and flexibility matter the most, there's another check for me.
Yeah.
If you want deep, high-quality client relationships versus volume, that's a third check for me, right?
Yeah.
But it's cool to kind of look at it like this. When you are trying to make this decision, right? And kind of sort of really start thinking, okay, what should I be doing here? What suits me best? Challenges, limited earning potential. Yeah, of course.
Fair.
That being said, if you work strategically, you can build a very good living for yourself as one person. Less ability to delegate tasks. Back to what you just said. You got to be everything, right? Yep. Which I kind of like though. I'm the personality that I like having variety in my work, so I do enjoy that.
Yeah.
And it's harder to pivot in certain industries. I'm going to pick on this one a little bit though. Harder to pivot. Yes, I think it depends on the industry. Of course, you got less manpower, right, to be able to a sudden change in the market to be able to react. But in my experience, the larger the company, the harder it is to pivot because you've got so many people, you've got so many layers of authorization, you've got so many people with different ideas and things like that can actually take some time.
Very true.
So,
it's a lot easier to kind of redefine who you are when you're in the earlier stages or in the smaller stages. If you scale, that means you're an established brand.
Yeah.
And why mess with that?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I actually want to close the segment just with a few questions. So if anyone listening is also at this same point with their business that they're trying to navigate what growth looks like, remember, staying small doesn't mean not growing, but are you looking for large, quick growth or are you looking for a more slower and manageable growth? And some really good questions to ask yourself. What does success look like for me? How do I define success in life? Is it a dollar figure in the bank? Is it owning something specific? Is it the lifestyle I lead, right?
Yeah.
Very individual answers to that question. Am I chasing growth because I want it or because I feel like I should? This one hit me. I do want growth. Yes. But there is also a lot of feel like I should. There is a lot of, okay, I've worked so hard for these few years. I really believe in what I offer to my industry.
Mm-hmm.
I believe in its quality and potential to make an impact in the larger market. So I put a lot of pressure on myself, I think, feeling like I should be growing more rapidly. I don't know. Do you have thoughts on that? Where do you stand on that?
Yeah, I don't know. So a lot of things coming to mind right now. Like, I know for us, for B&V Media, like we'd like to scale, become a national, nationally recognized, video and media marketing company. So we're not there yet. I guess the question is like, when do you know you are? I guess from a financial point of view, Jamie and I are comfortable financially. That's when we would kind of know, okay, we're reaching a point where, we're satisfied. But then it's like, what if we're not? Because going back to these massive companies and the people behind them, they didn't stop working when they became multimillionaires. No. They kept going and still keep going. Even the billionaires, they're still working every day.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to recognize that there's people like that, and there's people like you, and there's people like me who I think want to scale to like what I said, like a nationally recognized to a certain point. But I think we'll be able to recognize when we got to that point without sacrificing our personal lives.
Right. And it goes back to that first question. What does success look like for me?
Yeah.
I think if you can clearly define that, and here's the thing too, that might change.
Yeah.
We talked, I think it was the first episode or second episode, Mindset of a Leader. And we talked about setting goals and having a vision and how visions can change, goals can change, everything can change, right? We're human. That's what happens. But I do think that is a very important question to regularly ask yourself. Yeah. How do I define success for me personally? When will I know that I've got a successful life, right? And that will help you navigate that and make those decisions. The third question, can I sustain the challenges of scaling? So you might define success as in scaling to a huge company. You may really want the growth, but maybe you're not ready for the financial impact, or the shorter term financial impact, the challenges of hiring and building a team and what extra stress that's going to add to you. So I think it's really important to stay very cognizant of that. We're entrepreneurs, we're dreamers. That's why we do what we do, because we can visualize and create.
Yeah.
But I know for me that sometimes then tends to put rose-tinted glasses on my face, and I get really excited about the dream or the goal or those kind of things, and not necessarily and underestimate the challenges. Mm-hmm. So it's a very important question. And then the last one, would staying small limit my vision or make my business more sustainable? So it's all about that sweet spot, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because, as two small businesses in this day and age, we know that it's challenging. Cash flow is challenging. It's not always super sustainable. We have to pivot pretty quickly a lot of the time, right? Because things can change with clients, and then suddenly you need to replace them or you need to add more.
Yeah.
So, really just understanding what your vision is. Will my vision be limited by not scaling and by staying small? Or will it actually make my business more sustainable? So that's my kind of thoughts on this. I think the key to remember is there is no one right way of doing this, right? It is very individual. It's very specific to what you do and how you do it, and ultimately the life you want to create for yourself.
Yeah. What does success look like for you and you only?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So if you have any thoughts on this, anyone listening, where do you stand on scaling versus staying small? Is this something that you've dealt with? Do you have any advice or tips to share? share them in the comments. We would love to hear from you.
Do it up. Reach out to us.
Do it up. Reach out. Yeah.
All right. Well, that was fantastic, Lucy. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Is it giving you some things to think about?
For sure. I mean,
good.
I'm always thinking about it because right now we want to scale to a certain point. And I think like when you're a new business, you have to scale a little bit.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Or else you're not a real business because you start out making next to nothing.
Yeah.
So we know we need to. It's just a matter of, what are the best practices and how do we do that? So right now we're looking at it from like a sales and outreach point of view. So we'll keep you in the loop. Just kidding. You're part of the process.
I am indeed.
All right, folks. It's time for everyone's favorite segment, including the man upstairs. I don't know. This is not a Christian podcast. Are you there, God? It's me, marketing.
And I can't wait to hear what you have for us today.
Today, we're going to talk about the psychology of marketing. Now, marketers can sometimes get a bad rep because they can be seen as people that prey upon people's emotions and take advantage of certain situations. And I'm not going to lie to you and say that doesn't happen because it very much does. Yeah. That's just how it goes, unfortunately. But there are certain ways you can do it morally and ethically.
Okay.
Morally right, not morally wrong. So I'm going to go over a few different examples of companies that leverage different forms of psychology to create some cool campaigns and some customer retention.
Love that.
So first on the list is Casper.
Casper.
I have a oh my gosh, I can't remember Casper and the other mattress company. They're like the
they're a
same.
mattress company. I've never heard of them.
You never heard of them? Well, I guess didn't
Their
work
marketing's doing really good.
They're like, I think they're actually Canadian. They're definitely North American.
Okay.
But they do the whole like the mattress comes like rolled up. It's like very easy to transport, sort of like IKEA-ish sort of thing.
Yeah.
And what they did is they kind of leveraged the psychological concept of commitment and consistency. So it says like once people make a certain choice, they want to stand on that choice. It makes sense. Like you don't want to second guess your choice after you've made it. So what they do is they give people a risk-free trial.
Okay.
We'll send you a mattress.
Yeah.
You got it for 100 days. Try it out. If you don't like it, send it back. And if you do like it,
interesting.
pay to keep it kind of thing.
Yeah.
So like I said, that leverages like once people make a decision and it's another part of like they believe in their product. So this is a great way of getting their product in the door.
Yeah.
So people are actually using it. And then the other aspect is they're putting their other bed somewhere else. They're setting this up as their bed. They're putting their sheets on it. They're putting their pillows. They're matching.
They're taking ownership.
They're taking ownership.
Yeah.
Like most people don't backtrack on a lot of the decisions they make.
Like it would have to be a really bad quality, I think, for somebody to go through the process of trying to return a mattress. Because you're never going to get it wrapped up like it was when it arrived, which means someone's got to come and get it. You got to get it out of your house.
It's a hassle.
No one's doing that unless it's really, really bad.
Yeah.
So they obviously know that
it's working.
It's working.
I don't think they've made those numbers public, but I bet you it's a pretty high percentage that keep hold of those mattresses. Definitely.
Yeah, I would say so.
For me personally, I understand what they're doing. So I'd be like, no, I'll go to your store, which now they do have storefronts. Before they didn't, which also
so that's
how they were able to leverage that.
Yeah, because if you don't have stores, how can people try your product?
How can people try it, right? Now they have one. They have one in Halifax, somewhere downtown. Neither here nor there. Unless you're looking to get a new mattress, then call me. Another one, number 2, is consistent brand identity. Now, for this article that I'm referencing here, they use Apple as an example. And Apple, you think of Apple, you're going to have, you ask 100 people, what words or feelings come to your mind when you think of Apple products? You're going to get generally the same type of feelings and words to describe it. And that's because they've made a concerted effort to create a brand around functionality and sleekness and dependability and that cool factor, No, they do their Apple launch events like no other company really does that. Like no one's tuning into any launch events, but Apple has like leveraged that because then they create that excitement there. So that's another, like brand identity is massive and consistent brand identity. If you're flip-flopping and one day you're one thing and the next day you're another, like you're not going to be able to build that.
Oh, and people can't connect with it properly, right?
People you can't connect with it, right? But when you have consistent brand identity, that kind of leads to people thinking, okay, I can depend on this because I know what it is. It's not changing.
Right.
Mind you, Apple has gotten worse over the years, but don't worry about that. That goes back to the scaling thing we were talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
Number 3 is color psychology.
Okay.
Now, this is one that you'll see. When I was going to NSCC, it was back in like 2013, 2014. And at that time, every single movie poster, orange and blue. You remember back then? If you search like movie covers, like DVD covers from like 2010 to 2013, they're all going to be orange and blue. And it's because one, it's like that association. Like once one big company jumps on a fad, everyone else wants to. But the other side of that is different colors elicit different emotions.
Right. So I know about this from like a graphic design standpoint, you know, when you're designing logos and things like that. Yeah.
Exactly. So, I mean, you think red, stop, green, go.
Yeah.
All that.
Or like, green money.
Or green money. Like there's many different, like, you know, red, like hazard, like, whoa, like stop and read this. This is important, you know, that kind of thing. But in this case, it was Taco Bell and they were leveraging the color purple. And purple represents like youthful energy, apparently, vibrance. You know, I think of like royalty with purple as well. So I that's one that is interesting because it's very like it's not a very complex psychological point of view, but
it's one that makes a difference.
It's one that makes a very big difference, and colors are all around us. And like people make a living off of, like my mom is an interior decorator. Still not so much anymore, but like those are people's jobs, like coming into a home. And it's funny, my dad and I make jokes all the time. It's like the walls turn a different color every 6 months or something like that because, you know, it's different colors and different seasons and elicit different emotions. So it's proven, I swear.
I love it.
And the last one that we're going to go over here is building connections and creating an emotional response to the company. And I'm not going to use any of the examples that we have in here because podcasting is a fantastic way to build connections with your audience. Yep. You're talking about your company and you're talking about it in a candid way. And it might not just be talking about your company, you could be talking about the industry you're in. You'd be having on guests that are in your industry and you're having a genuine, authentic, and we go back to that every time, but it's the truth, that genuine, authentic conversations. So the customer or the audience that is listening understands, okay, this is who these people really are. They're wearing their heart on the sleeve. Like there's so much marketing out there that is deceptive. And when it comes to podcasting, and many companies, many brands are doing it, it's difficult to deceive.
It is. Oh, absolutely.
And you shouldn't. I'm not, that wasn't a challenge. Okay.
No, it is. And I think, you know, podcasting it's longer form, right? So, I mean, you can convey a lot more information in a podcast than you can in a 30-second TV commercial or whatever. But it's that natural conversation and it allows your customers to really get to know you as a human being, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a very, very powerful way of doing that. And that's why we're seeing a lot of big brands move their marketing spend into this area of marketing, right? Because it has a big reach.
Absolutely. Yeah. And there's plenty of other ways that companies and brands do this. I'll put the link in the show notes for this article. There's 15 different examples, and they also break down the different forms of psychology and how that all works. But I took marketing in school, so you know I'm marketing background, and before I crashed out of Dalhousie, I was in Bachelor of Science with a minor or major in psychology. So I was fascinated in psychology, like abnormal psychology, child psychology, like all that, like was very fascinating to me.
Yeah.
So, and I've had this conversation several times over. It's like a marketer with a background in psychology is kind of priceless in a lot of ways.
100%. It's funny because sometimes I think we do forget the importance of psychology in business.
Yeah.
You know, business is business and everything else is separate. But at the end of the day, and I think Simon Sinek said this, but really the concept of it is business is all about people. So to fully understand business, you have to understand people. It's foundational.
Yeah.
I talk about psychology a lot. I mean, I train people to sell and I train people to lead. Psychology is at the root of both of those things.
Sure is.
So it's hugely important to understand that stuff. 100%.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, that was another edition of Are You There, God? It's me marketing. We got to get some sound effects there. I keep saying that, but we'll get there.
Okay, we'll get there. We'll get there,
folks. We're busy. But finally, we'll end with marketing the news. And I want to hear, we kind of alluded last episode to some changes going on with Kickstart Consulting.
We did. Yes.
What's going on? What's the news? Dish it out?
Well, the news, and you know what? This might not be a big step for some. I'm going to put that out there. But for me, as somebody who started a business by myself, no partners, no outside investment, just me and an idea, and really built something for the ground up. Kickstart Consulting is now incorporated.
Hey-o.
It's something I've been meaning to do for a while, actually, and I just didn't get around to doing it last year. So I decided to take that. I've been thinking about a rebrand for a while as well.
Yeah, you got the new logo.
Yeah, so I took this opportunity, the incorporation. I changed the name slightly. Previously, it was Kickstart Coaching and Consulting, and I had it registered as a sole proprietorship. Where my business has sort of changed somewhat from the initial kind of goals and the initial work I was doing, I decided just to keep it very clean, Kickstart Consulting. I got new logo designs and new branding done, and just putting the finishing touches on a new website as well. So that should be live, hopefully, within the next week.
Love it.
So yeah, very, very exciting. It's a growth move, so that feels good. And looking really just to continue that and continue working with dealer groups across the country. Yeah.
Responsible growth. You know?
Yeah. How
Very
about
nice.
you?
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Well, with B&V Media, I guess we'll just kind of go over two things. A project we're working on right now. I may have mentioned it before. I'm not 100% sure. And then another event, which could lead to other events that we're going to be part of coming up that is super exciting. So the first one is the Life Through Music podcast. So that's going to be launching. And this has been in the works for almost 2 years now. And it's so funny how these things happen. Like a woman who lives in my building, or not anymore, she's since moved. She's the former CEO of Diesel Canada, like the clothing company. It was good friends with Alan Frew, the lead singer of Glass Tiger. Remember the great Canadian rock band from the 80s? And they're still going.
Yeah.
They're still going.
They played here back in the summer.
Yeah, they're playing here again on March 22nd. Yeah, March 22nd at the Lighthouse Arts Center. They're opening for Rod Stewart at Montreal at an outdoor festival this summer. So still cooking. He's 67. He's still going. It's incredible. Like
Love it.
When we met him, we were like, wow, you're a legend. But it was super cool because this woman, Joey's her name, she wanted to start a podcast as well. But she was like, my good friend Alan Frew, like he's been talking about a podcast. Let me connect you guys. This was the fall of 2023. So yeah, about a year and a half-ish. We've been working on it. Maybe even it was the fall of 2022. It's been a while. It's been a while in the works. We've since recorded 4 episodes. We're doing 2 or 3 more in March and then finish off season 1 in May. We'll go up to Toronto. We've been up a few times to record some episodes. But the guests are incredible. Marilyn Dennis, who's
oh wow,
the queen of talk shows, I guess you could say, in Canada. Brian Burke, hockey royalty, the former GM of Anaheim Ducks and Toronto Maple Leafs, of course. Like after we recorded with him, we were walking around. We walked to the bar, had a couple of beers, and he was stopped multiple times. They're like, "We love you. Like you're amazing. Like we don't know why the Leafs dropped you. Like all this stuff." We're like, "This is too funny." And then he'll be coming here. We're going to record a couple more episodes. And then when we go back up there, I think we'll have Doug Gilmour, who's another hockey legend. Jeannie Becker, who is kind of the queen of fashion television in Canada. And then a couple other guests that we're still working on confirmation. So I won't drop their names, but there's some big ones. I love it. That's heavy so hitters.
Exciting.
So yeah, look for that in the most likely late spring, early summer 2025. And we hope, that's going to kind of be like, he said he wants, be the Joe Rogan of Canada podcasts. And Joe Rogan now is incredibly divisive, but let's just say he wants to be, someone.
He wants that a big audience.
He wants a big audience, and like I said, he is 67, and he wants to transition to another form of media. And podcasting really is where he sees that opportunity. So this is definitely a long-term play. We're super excited, and
I love it.
Can't wait for it to drop, and hopefully everyone loves it. And the other thing, actually, we just found out today that we're going to be part of, we're going to be doing the videography and the content creation around the Chefs for UNICEF event here in Halifax. Now, this is actually the 33rd annual.
Wow.
I know, right? I should have known that, I suppose, but I found that out.
That's like nearly as long as you've been alive.
Damn it. I am older than that, Gala. Yes, correct.
Only a little bit.
Only a little bit,
I'm more
right?
older, so...
Fair enough. Only a little bit more. For me personally, like this is a great opportunity because we always have been looking to give back, and it's so tough when you're starting out and you're trying to scale. You really don't have a lot of time. And we raised money for the IWK back when it was just the Brand New View podcast. Like we did a little raffle at our launch party, and we really haven't done anything since. So for us to be a part of this, and they're going to chuck us some money. It's I don't want to say like we're completely donating our time. There is a paid aspect to it, but we're going to be doing the pop-up podcast there. And everyone there, the people that are involved, the donors that are going to be there, the sponsors, is just going to be super cool to meet these people, get to know them, potentially network. But more than anything, like just be part of something that's really bigger than us and is a fantastic cause.
Yeah, I love it. It's so exciting, and I'm very excited for that one too. I'm very excited to host the pop-up pod and meet some of the people that are there, some of the guests, some of the sponsors, and some of the people from UNICEF, and give them a platform to speak on. So exactly. Be a good time. It'll be a good time.
All right, well, that's it for this episode.
It is.
That flew by.
Yeah, it did fly. It always flies by because we always get into such good conversation.
It's true. It's fun. It's a good way to decompress, but also, it's a form of marketing, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
We're out here.
Absolutely.
Well, we need to get a guest on soon.
We do. I have some ideas.
Okay.
We'll talk after.
Sounds good. And if you're interested, folks, on coming on the Kickstart Connections podcast, let us know. Drop it in the comments on YouTube. Email me at marc@bnvmedia.ca or Lucy at who knows.
Lucinda at kickstartconsulting.ca.
Okay, I wasn't sure if you changed the website. Still the same.
It's still the same website, yeah.
Okay.
Because I was lucky enough to get that Kickstart Consulting domain.
Yes.
Because I thought maybe that would be a switch later down the line.
Good
so email has stayed the same.
Email it or reach out on Instagram at BNV at BNV.media or at Kickstart Connections podcast. We'd love to hear from you. And if you are listening on your favorite podcast platform, please subscribe to this podcast. Leave us that 5-star rating or 4. I'll take 4. I always will. And give us a comment, give us a review. And if you're watching on YouTube, like this video, hit the bell button, and subscribe to our channel. We are excited to grow this with everyone and build this community. We've got some big things in the future, hopefully in terms of entrepreneurial networking events this summer. So stay tuned, folks.
Stay tuned. Lots of exciting things coming. But for now, thank you again for joining us, and we'll see you next time.